News Talk 96.9, Democratic National Convention, Time Warner Arena right here in beautiful Charlotte. And tonight, President Barack Obama will accept his party's nomination. We're lucky enough to have the legendary, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, one of the great civil rights leaders of our country, someone who marched with Martin Luther King Jr., founded the Rainbow Push Coalition. And Reverend Jackson, thank you for joining us on News Talk 96.9.
Hello, Boston.
We appreciate it. Barack Obama, he's had some struggles. He's had some unemployment issues, and the American people are wondering, why 4 more years? Tell the American people why Barack Obama should be reelected.
Because we're better off now than we were 4 years ago. When he came in office, there was another bank collapse on the precipice of global collapse, and the banks got bailed out. It was not linked to lending and the reinvestment, but the home foreclosure rate, the church foreclosure rate, the financial system, but the whole world was on a downward spiral. That arrow's upward now. We came in office, we lost 4 million jobs under President Bush. We've gained 4.5 million. It's an 8 million vote swing. He came into office, the automotive industry had virtually gone out of business. We thought maybe even Germans and Japanese had some special capacity to make cars we couldn't make. Well, we got restructured, and now we're working 3 shifts in Ohio and Illinois again. 100,000 troops are home from Iraq now. We're there on a misguided mission in the very first place, costing lives and money and honor. So he has a track record. There is unfinished business to be done, but at least we're moving. The arrow is pointing upward and not downward.
Americans, we have attention deficit disorder in this country. We want things now, now, now. Is it hard to explain per se?
We shouldn't brag about that because that's not intelligent. That's not the way life works. You cannot separate text from context. When President Bush came in, we were debating a budget surplus, debating peace dividend. Then we went in 2 wars off budget and cut taxes on the wealthiest Americans. So more expenditures and less revenue equal a historical deficit. You got to put this matter in context. What does it mean when the banking industry is in free fall? When you're losing 800,000 jobs a month, automotive industry has collapsed. Now all that has been restructured and rebuilt and growing again. That's significant.
What do you do? What do you tell to working Americans who still don't have a job after 18 months? For instance, here in North Carolina, unemployment 9.6%. People are still without jobs. How do you convey to them, hang in there and have hope when they want to feed their kids?
Well, I think part of what they need is unemployment insurance. Part of what they need is healthcare. They can have healthcare even while they're getting a job. But tell them the average pointing upward. You know, we have been down. We were in a hole that looked to have been a bottomless pit. And we go back to the policies of cutting tax on the wealthiest Americans without reinvestment. We'll go back on a downward spiral.
What has kept you engaged all these years trying to represent Americans who don't always have a voice and don't always have representation?
I suppose it's a matter of dignity. You know, when I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, about 90 miles from here south.
Greenville Red Sox, my Boston Red Sox have a farm team there.
And Greensboro, North Carolina, north of here. So this is kind of my home zone. What a beautiful New South. New South because the walls came down. Because the Voting Rights Act. We got the right to vote in 1965. Blacks couldn't vote. White women couldn't serve on juries in many parts of the South. 18-year-olds couldn't vote, those serving in Vietnam. You couldn't vote on campus as students. You can now. You couldn't vote bilingually. And so we've seen a New South emerge. You couldn't have had the Carolina Panthers or the Bobcats behind the cotton curtain. You couldn't have had all the new industries down I-85 behind the cotton curtain, the high tech. You could not have had the Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. You could not have had all this new growth because when these racial walls came down and we began to use all the players, it's like saying we didn't know how good baseball could be until everybody could play. We didn't know how good our economy could be until women and men, black and white, could function together. And that's been our mission, and that mission is unfolding.
Talk about the candidate you've known for an awfully long time, Barack Obama, and what do you think he'll tell to the American people tonight? When he gets up there, I know that people have said, listen, he inherited this recession. Unemployment was 7.7% when he took over, yet should it be a message of moving forward and a positive message rather than throwing some of the information back at the Republicans for what he inherited?
I think he must build upon what he has accomplished and expand it. The job arrow pointing upward is a plus for him. Uh, the war winding down in Iraq and Afghanistan is a plus for him. More Americans insured who would have perhaps be dead by now is a plus for him. Automotive industry bouncing back is a plus for him. Part of the unfinished business seems to me there are 50 million Americans in poverty and 54 million were food insecure. That's America's unfinished business. And since there's going to be a big campaign in Ohio, 33 Ohio counties in Appalachia. That's where Johnson kicked off the war on poverty. What a great time to put poverty and violence and urban reconstruction back on the agenda.
The Romney-Ryan ticket says that the Democrats just want to spend, spend, spend. We have $16 trillion in debt. What is your answer that they say, listen, the Democrats just go wild spending, spending, spending. We just can't afford these programs anymore.
The shift from surplus to deficit came because of Republicans' priorities. You know, we spent $1 to $3 trillion in the war in Iraq. It was the wrong target. What could $1 trillion do today? Wipe out every state budget deficit, rehire every policeman, every teacher, every fireman, reopen recreation centers, hire coaches again, revive our quality of life. That's a piece of it. What if we are able now to make banks accountable, put the Glass-Steagall Act back on, so you don't have lending and investing in the same house, and you can choose lending over risk investment? This is a great moment if we keep the arrows pointing upward.
What do you think about Bill Clinton, his speech last night? He had the place rocking and rolling pretty good.
He's a phenomenal political leader. And good news is he and President Barack have reached a relationship, a mutually beneficial relationship, and they're working together as good for the nation. And I'm glad that is happening because they're two enormously talented men. And together, they working together will help us regain our status more quickly.
Well, I do want to thank you because in Maine, 1987, international paper strikers went on strike, and they're having a difficult time. And people oftentimes think of you, Reverend, as someone who represents African Americans, but you stood up for just people and human beings in 1987. And my grandfather was one of them that was out on those strike lines, and we're thrilled to see you come up there.
We always did stand for all people. And you know, if you're in a boat, if any one plank in the bottom of that boat is out, water comes in, drowns everybody. Us fighting for civil rights for blacks, help Latinos, help women, help youth, help seniors. We led from the base of that proposition. We've always had a broad view of humanity. We see America through a door, not through a keyhole. Everybody matters.
Does it bother you the way partisan politics have become so nasty and so personal? It seems it was a little bit different 40 years ago. There were nasty politics, but it wasn't attacks on family members and things like that like it is now.
Well, the Jefferson Davis Democrats, who were hostile in the South, became the Reagan Goldwater Republicans after 1965 with the Voting Rights Act. They've never stopped being hostile and nasty. And so you elect President Barack Obama, a redeeming moment in American history. And he's a liar to discredit him, disrespect him from the will of the Congress. The congressman should have been expelled, as a matter of fact. He's not born here. He's not one of us. He's not a Christian. All those discrediting attacks were designed to embarrass him and to reduce his stature. It hurts all of America. We should never go that low ever again, no matter who wins, male, female, black, or white.
I know Obamacare has been controversial, and last night Democrats came out and said, listen, it's already saved this country hundreds of billions of dollars.
Well, really, it's Obamacare. You have students who can stay on their parents' insurance until they're 26, and people who are insured with pre-existing conditions, people who are in a job transition who maintain their insurance. More people are covered today than ever before. We need to keep expanding that coverage because all of us need that health safety net.